Take my wallet, please. With a monthly take-home wage of about $1,500, I was living in poverty after 25 years of employment. One day, I encountered an elderly woman. The fugitive elderly woman said she was broke. I chose to give her all of my savings because I couldn't ignore someone who was in a worse predicament than I was. A few days later, I suddenly got back in touch with her in a way I never would have thought possible. You are dismissed from this factory as of right now. After that, everything in my life completely changed. Kevin is my name. I work on a production line and consider myself to be a dull man. This year is my 40th birthday. At this age, I make a meager $1,500 a month, so I live a simple life in a tiny apartment alone, without a wife or children. Artis, my house cat, is the one person I can call family even if I don't have any. Meow. I take prodder. Rotisserie, a ginger cat, is the one that always welcomes me home. Not long ago, I brought this abandoned kitten home. I picked up this cat on my way back from a grocery where I was buying chicken, which is how the name rotisserie came about. After considering rotisserie and burrito, I'm happy I went with this name. Rotisserie is still a kitten, but she's at her mischievous stage and is getting me into a lot of trouble. Rotisserie has thus escaped from the apartment today once more. Taking my eyes off him for just a moment, he seemed to have dashed out through the window, and in a panic, I rushed out of the apartment and ran in the direction Rotisserie had escaped. With my usual lack of exercise, I couldn't keep up with the kitten's sprint, and was panting heavily as I shouted, "Rotisserie, where are you?" I received odd looks from passers-by, wondering if I should have stuck with the other name. As I searched a park a little beyond my apartment, it caught my eye, thinking there was a chance. I peered into the park, and there on a bench sat the old lady with Rotisserie being petted by her. "Rotisserie, so you were here." I blurted out loud, and the old lady, seeing me, hurried to leave. However, it seemed Rotisserie had taken a liking to this old lady, following her slowly. Rotisserie rubbed its body against the old lady's leg as she stopped. The old lady looked troubled, seeing Rotisserie, who usually shies away from people, so attached. It was impressive. While admiring this, I picked up Rotisserie. "Sorry about my cat," I said. "Oh no, I'm the one who should apologize." I petted him without knowing he was someone's cat. "I'm sorry," the old lady said, speaking with a gentle voice that exuded a certain grace. Yet despite the cold, her clothes were tattered. In the midst of winter, in January, she wore a clearly worn-out apron and sandals suitable only for a quick errand, without a coat. She looked as if she had left home in a hurry. Clearly, she seemed cold. Coincidentally, I too had rushed out of my house in a hurry, chasing after Rotisserie, feeling cold and almost nothing but what I had on. "Rather than here, why don't you come to my place?" "My name is Dorothy Miller," she said. I learned that Dorothy had been living with her son and his wife, but had impulsively left home after a minor argument. She had left her phone at home, and although she thought she had her wallet with her, it seemed she had lost it at some point. I guess this is what they mean by when it rains, it pours. After leaving, she couldn't bring herself to go back home, and wandered aimlessly until she found that park and decided to rest on a bench. That's when Rotisserie came by her side, followed by me. "Your home is near Solar Station. That's 6 stations away from here, isn't it?" I said. I was genuinely impressed by the distance she had walked. "I must be bothering you, Kevin." "I shouldn't be stubborn and should just go home now," Dorothy said, standing up. But it was nearly time for the last train, and since it's a 20-minute walk from this apartment to the station, it would be impossible for her to get home today. I considered taking a taxi, but taxis are only available at the station square. To make matters worse, I dropped my phone yesterday while trying to take a photo of Rotisserie, and now the screen is completely shattered. I can make calls, send emails, or use messaging apps anymore. Since nobody contacts me anyway, I had planned to get it repaired after work tomorrow. So my phone is currently out of service, and public phones in the area have been removed over time. So I decided to make her an offer. Dorothy, would you like to stay here tonight? Oh no, I couldn't possibly impose on you to that extent. But Dorothy, you don't have any cash on you right now, right? Embarrassed, she replied. I don't. Honestly, I don't have much on me either, I admitted, mentioning my broken phone and how I couldn't do anything until tomorrow. It's cold this season, and it would be terrible if something happened to you on your way home. Besides, I glanced at Rotisserie. Meow. Rotisserie seemed to have taken a real liking to Dorothy, staying on her lap even after we got inside. It was going to be tough to get him to move. Well, it seems Rotisserie is also saying I should stay, Dorothy said with a small smile. So maybe I'll take you up on your offer, just for tonight. Yes, please do. Fortunately, I had an extra bed in a spare room, so I let Dorothy rest there. As she settled in, she chuckled. I do have fights with my son sometimes, but this one turned into quite a heated argument. I was cooking, and in a moan of frustration, I just left with my apron on. It's embarrassing at my age. It's nice to have a family you can argue with, I said, feeling a pang of longing. I'm envious. Kevin, how about your parents? My parents have both passed away. Oh my, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. No, please don't apologize, I said. Despite her initial reaction, Dorothy looked somewhat relieved as I shared more about my past. My parents passed away just before I graduated middle school. As their only son, I inherited everything, including their debts. The debt was from a shady loan company with mercilessly high interest rates. Their representative told me, if you can pay back the $30,000 your father owed, we'll cut you some slack on the interest. So, I started working right after middle school. With no relatives to rely on, it was the only option I had. I found a job at this factory, which hired middle school graduates, and I've been here ever since. I've been at this same job for 25 years. Kevin, after 25 years on the same factory line, surely you're a supervisor or something by now. No way. I'm still a regular employee because I only finished middle school and have no further education. That's ridiculous, Dorothy exclaimed. Really? The factory manager, Jake, and the current supervisor, Ryan, always say, you'll never get promoted because you only finished middle school. You'll be a regular employee forever with this salary. Dorothy's eyes widened. By the way, how much is your salary? It's been about $1,500 take home since I joined. I've managed to keep that amount since finishing paying off my parents' debt. While repaying the loan, I allocated $200 each month to repayments, barely making ends meet with rent and food expenses. Given my circumstances, marriage was out of the question. Before I knew it, I was 40, with only Rotisserie as my family. Dorothy listened intently, nodding and occasionally expressing surprise. Her kindness reminded me of what it might have been like if my mother were still here. I'm sorry for talking about such things. It must not have been very interesting for you to listen to. No, I asked you to tell me. It's incredible that you've worked so diligently and even paid off your parents' debts. That's nothing. The kind person was the loan company's man who cut me slack. I just did what I had to do, I said, feeling unexpectedly bashful at her praise. After our conversation, Dorothy and I went to bed. The next morning, we left the house together as I headed to work. Rotisserie didn't want to leave Dorothy, and it was a struggle to separate them. Rotisserie will be in a bad mood all day, I joked. We walked to the local station, and before Dorothy boarded, I stopped by a drugstore ATM and withdrew the last $20 in my account. Dorothy, you'll need some cash to get home, so please take my wallet with you, I said, handing it to her. She looked at me, shocked. No, absolutely not. You can't just hand over your wallet to someone you hardly know. But Dorothy, you don't have any pockets in the clothes you're wearing. It's better to have a wallet than lose cash. It would be terrible if you were robbed. Don't worry about me. I've already accounted for my living expenses, and payday is coming up soon. After some back and forth, Dorothy finally accepted my wallet. She kept thanking me until she disappeared into the station. When I returned home, Rotisserie was sitting sadly on the bed Dorothy had used. While I felt the emptiness, I reminded myself that Dorothy had her own home to return to, and I couldn't keep her here. The 2 days until payday were tough. I survived on water alone, but once my salary came in, I was able to eat properly and get my phone repaired. Life returned to its unremarkable rhythm with Rotisserie as my sole companion. Then, one day, out of the blue, the factory manager, Jake, called me over. It caught me by surprise. Though younger than me, at 38, Jake always looked down on me, a regular employee with no prospects. His insults like dropout, older but still a regular employee, and guy with a $1,500 salary were frequent. It felt like his way of blowing off steam. While his harassment weighed on me, I endured it silently. After all, I couldn't risk losing my job. So, I just let it slide naturally when Jake said he needed to talk. It made me wonder what it could possibly be about, but it also crossed my mind that he could actually have a serious conversation with me. The place I was called to was the factory's reception room. I rarely enter there, so my heart was pounding unnecessarily. Could it be? Am I about to be fired? I couldn't think of anything I had done wrong, but sudden layoffs are always a possibility. If that happened, would I be able to find another job right away? And what about Tris Food as he grows? With these thoughts, I opened the door to the reception room, where Jake, an elegant older woman, and a man in a suit were seated across from each other. The man seemed to be about my age. I didn't recognize him. As I tentatively said, "Excuse me," the woman looked up. Seeing her face, I was stunned. It was Dorothy. "Dorothy? Why does this dropout know your name?" I asked. "I had a little encounter with him the other day," she replied coldly. "It's none of your business." When Dorothy said that coldly, Jake awkwardly looked away. "Kevin, I really appreciated your help the other day. Thank you so much," she added. "No, thank you." Dorothy, now in a sophisticated suit, looked entirely different from the apron-clad figure I had met before, embodying the image of a female president. The man, about my age, sitting next to Dorothy, stood up and thanked me. "Kevin, thank you for taking care of my mother the other day. Thanks to you, she safely returned home, and our family is relieved." "No, please, you don't have to thank someone like me." Being thanked so politely by someone who clearly held a higher status made me extremely nervous. "But to give away your wallet like that," Dorothy began. "That was all I had at the time," I replied. "Even so, it's not something many people would do, giving away their entire wallet to a stranger," she said. "You think so too, right? It's not something easily done," she added. Both Dorothy and the man were saying this to me, but I was just filled with embarrassment. "Dorothy, why are you here, and who is this man?" I finally managed to ask. Jake exclaimed, "What? You don't know who these people are?" "I know who Dorothy is, but I don't know the man," I honestly replied. That's when Jake sighed. "This is why I hate dealing with dropouts like you. I'm sorry, everyone, for his ignorance. He's a dropout and doesn't know much about the world." Jake scolded me. I was shocked by Jake's words. "Wait, Dorothy is the president?" "No, I used to be the president, but now I'm the chairman. This son of mine is the president," she explained. The man was Dorothy's son and the president of the parent company. I had never met or even known the names of such high-ranking individuals from the parent company, given our lack of connection. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know," I muttered. I wondered if I had said or done anything disrespectful to Dorothy that day. Was it even rude in the first place to have her stay at my humble home? The thought made my face drain of color. "There's a reason we asked you to come here today," Dorothy said, looking at me with a serious expression. "You are being terminated from this factory as of today." Oh no, I thought. Will the determination process take long? Dorothy asked Jake. No. If it's an order from you, I can process it immediately. Right now. Effective today. All right, that's fine then. Thank you, Dorothy said. Jake quickly stood up and left the reception room. As he left, he muttered, "Finally rid of that dropout." But his words didn't register with me. The shock of being fired was greater than anything else. Within an hour, Jake had truly terminated me from the factory. Effective today, here's your termination notice. Don't ever come back to our factory, Jake said as he handed me the termination notice. Kevin, let's go. Please come with me, Dorothy called out to me. Still in a daze, I left with Mr. Miller. I hurriedly followed them. Get in, Dorothy said. I got into the black car that Dorothy and the others had gotten into. Where are we going? I asked. We're going to our company, she replied. Your company isn't the parent company of this factory, I asked. Yes, she answered with a reassuring smile. Minutes later, I found myself in a very comfortable car on my way to the parent company for the first time. The place they took me to was a presidential office on the top floor. Still in my work clothes, I was led there and told to sit on a plush sofa, which I did without objection. The women I saw before entering the president's office, probably secretaries, seemed to give me a cold look, as if wondering why someone like me was there. Feeling out of place and fidgety, Dorothy spoke up. The day you handed over your wallet, I thought to myself, what an incredible person he must be. Incredible. I'm not. I began to protest. The truth is, people generally only think about themselves. When I was running the company, I saw so many people like that. I just assumed everyone was the same. But Kevin, you were different. You helped a complete stranger, offered me a place to stay, and in the end, even gave me your wallet containing all your savings. Thinking about it now, maybe what I did was a bit odd. But then again, you were really in trouble at that time. I really wanted to thank you. So, I hope you don't mind, but I looked inside the wallet you gave me. Your driver's license was in there, so I ended up finding out about you. I was surprised to learn you worked at one of our subsidiary factories. That was a surprise for me too, I said. From what you told me before, it sounded like your work environment wasn't the best, but after seeing Jake's attitude today, I got a pretty good idea of how you were being treated at the factory. Someone as sincere as you shouldn't have to endure that. You need to know your own worth, Dorothy said, looking at me with sincerity. It warmed my heart. I had always thought I was a person of no value, so it was the first time someone spoke so passionately about me. I couldn't help but deeply admire Dorothy as a person. Kevin, I'm going to hire you as my personal assistant at our company. You'll be paid a salary befitting the position, so don't worry. What? I couldn't help but let out an incredulous sound. I believe in you. You have the kind of reliability that is invaluable in a person. Learn things you couldn't learn at the factory under my guidance. Refusing Dorothy's offer seemed rude after everything she said, and I felt that I would indeed learn a lot from this new opportunity. A few days later, I found myself back at the factory where I used to work. Seeing me, Jake approached with a smug, malicious grin. What? What is a dropout like you wearing a suit here? Is this some kind of cosplay? Sorry, but we're not hiring mid-career. Yes, today I was at the factory dressed in a suit. Yes, I'm here on Miss Miller's behalf. This is a document from her, I said. What? On Miss Miller's behalf? Jake asked. Yes, I've been working as her secretary since the other day, I replied. What? After learning that I was working as her secretary, Jake barged into our company, proclaiming, "If a dropout like him can do it, I can do it even better. Hire me as an apprentice secretary." He was repeatedly escorted out by security. As this behavior persisted, Dorothy eventually appeared and dismissed him, stating, "We don't need someone like you who looks down on my benefactor." Following that, Jake was demoted and relegated to just another worker on a factory line. It was Mr. Miller and Miss Miller who decided that Jake was not suitable for the position of factory manager. Since then, I've been working hard every day as Miss Miller's apprentice secretary. My salary increased significantly, and I was able to move to a better place. I even managed to get a full set of suits, marking a complete turnaround in my life. Though every day was challenging with so much to learn, it was incredibly fulfilling to return home to Rotisserie, my hairy companion, and being able to take him for grooming made my days even better. One day, Miss Miller introduced me to a woman. "She's the daughter of a friend of mine, around your age. She's a single mother raising her son, and she's a great person. I think you'll get along well," Miss Miller said with a somewhat mischievous smirk. Though I indirectly declined, saying, "At this age, now of all times," she insisted, "just meet her." Apparently, Miss Miller enjoyed playing matchmaker. The woman turned out to be Olivia, a classmate from my middle school. When I heard her name, I wondered if it could be Kevin. "It's been so long," Olivia exclaimed. Our reunion as former classmates led to a lively conversation. Olivia shared that she had married at 21, had a son at 22, and soon after discovered her husband's infidelity. Divorced, she had worked hard ever since, juggling her job and raising her son as time flew by. She then showed me a photo of a white cat. "My cat's name is Snowball. I was torn between Cheese and Snowball, but I chose Snowball because of her beautiful white color, like yogurt. My son always teases me about my terrible naming sense," she said with a laugh. I, in turn, showed her a photo of Rotisserie. "I actually have a cat, too, named Rotisserie. I debated between Rotisserie and Burrito for his name," I said. Hearing that, Olivia laughed. "Kevin, your naming sense is quite something, too." Olivia and I naturally became closer as Rotisserie and Snowball began spending time together. Tyler, Olivia's son, and I also became close friends, and we frequently went out to eat together. Tyler told Olivia, "Mom, I'm going to be an adult," following one such lunch. "You need to start living your own life now. Kevin, my mom has worked tirelessly every day to raise me," he continued, turning to face me. "From now on, I want her to live her own life. When she's with you, she seems so content. Be with her, if that's not too much to ask." Olivia was moved to tears by Tyler's words. "Gently, I ask the same of you," I answered. "The three of us, Rotisserie and Snowball, have been contentedly residing in a comfortable home ever since. Every time Miss Miller and Mr. Miller come to visit, our house is a hive of laughing and happiness." I never thought that merely lending a helpful hand would result in such gratitude and profoundly alter my life. I consider myself quite fortunate to have encountered individuals that greatly appreciate me. It's a little late, but this is your reward for leading an honest life. Miss Miller always says, "You should believe in yourself because you are genuinely valuable." Even though I still struggle with complete self-confidence, I am incredibly thankful to have individuals who think so highly of me. I'm resolved to keep trying my hardest in an effort to repay Miss Miller and others for their generosity.